Hebrews, Hebrews, Hebrews. This is Prophets of Awakening. It's our Israelite Advanced Bible Study night. We'll be reading out of Joshua 80 and 89. It's Joshua liking unto Moses. Okay. You can go to our YouTube channel, The Prophets of Awakening. Check out our videos. We have over 1,000 or so videos that you can look at, examine, get the meat out. And if you like what you're hearing and receiving, I'm asking you to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It'll be greatly appreciated. Okay. This is a non-Messianic channel. For those that don't know, we deal with the Tanakh and the Torah. Tanakh being the Old Testament, so-called Book of Remembrance. The Torah is the first 5 books of the Old Testament that was given to Moses by our Redeemer and our Savior, the Lord of hosts. Shalom and welcome to this channel. And welcome to our Israelite Advanced Bible Study. We're going to do our normal, which is a moment of silence, prayer, psalms, some current events. You need to know information. Then we'll open it up for anybody with questions and comments or any dialogue. And we'll go into our topic, which is Joshua liking unto Moses. Okay, we're going to pick a scripture and break it down, then we'll close out. Okay, this moment of silence is for the Lord of hosts and all that he's doing to bring about our prophesied deliverance in these last days. O Lord, righteousness and uprightness belongs unto thee. Therefore we come before thee at this hour, seeking thy face and looking for righteousness and uprightness, that we may walk before thee as thy servants David and Solomon, Samuel and Hezekiah did. For we desire to walk after thee, O Lord, keep your commandments, your testimony, and your statutes with all our heart and soul, to perform the words of the covenant that was written down by your prophets. O Lord, allow thy face to shine upon thy people. Hear our plea, hear and do, O Lord, and hide not thy face from us any longer, for we need you so very much at this hour. Peace be unto you. Okay. Read the Psalms. Okay. Okay, I read Psalm 10. It's a prayer for the overthrow of the wicked. Why standest thou far off, O Lord? Why hidest thou thyself in times of trouble? The wicked in his pride doeth persecute the poor. Let them be taken in the devices that they have imagined. For the wicked boasteth of his heart's desire, and blesseth the covetous, whom the Lord abhorreth. The wicked, through the pride of his countenance, will not seek after God. God is not in all his thoughts. His ways are always grievous. Thy judgments are far above out of his sight. As for all his enemies, he puffeth at them. He hath said in his heart, I will not be moved, for I shall never be in adversity. His mouth is full of crushing, cursing, and deceit, and fraud. Under his tongue is mischief and vanity. He sitteth in the lurking places of villages, in the secret places do he murder the innocent. His eyes are privately set against the poor. He lieth in wait, secretly as a lion in his den. He lieth in wait to catch the poor. He doeth catch the poor when he draweth him into his net. He croucheth and he humbleth himself, that the poor may fall by his strong ones. He hath said in his heart, God hath forgotten. He hideth his face, he will never see it. Arise, O Lord, O God, lift up thine hand, forget not the humble. Wherefore do the wicked contempt God? He hath said in his heart, thou wilt not require it, thou hast seen it, and thou beholdest mischief and spite to requite it with thy hand. The poor committed himself unto thee. Thou art the helper of the fatherless. Break thou the arm of the wicked and the evil man. Seek out his wickedness till thou find none. The Lord is king forever, and ever. The heathens are perished out of his hand, out of his land. Lord, thou hast heard the desires of the humble. Thou wilt prepare their heart. Thou wilt cause thine ear to hear, to judge the fatherless and the oppressed, that the man of the earth may no more oppress. Okay, that was Psalm 10. It's a prayer for the overthrow of the wicked. So we notice right here, we see that right now today in 2025 that how these the wicked operate. It says, he sitteth in the lurking places of the villages, in the secret places doeth he murder the innocent. His eyes is privately set against the poor. He lieth in wait secretly as a lion in his den. He lieth in wait to catch the poor. He will catch the poor when he draweth him into his net. He croucheth and humbleth himself, that the poor may fall into his strong fall by a strong one. He hath said in his heart, God hath forgotten. He hideth his face, and he will never see it. And we see that right now. They've been lying and manipulating everything so long, they don't think that the Lord of hosts is coming back. Okay. Any comments or questions on that? Okay. With that being said, we go to our current events. I'll play them and then we'll talk about them.
Isn't just weakening, it's collapsing, and few are prepared for the massive shift that's ahead. See, historically, escalating geopolitical tensions, be it trade wars, tariffs, or financial instability, drive investors toward U.S. assets for safety, but this time, something is different. They're rushing out. Foreign governments are offloading treasuries, the dollar continues to fall, and meanwhile, gold keeps reaching all-time highs. All warning signs. But central banks, they already understand this, and they are quietly preparing behind closed doors for something they haven't had to face in 80 years. A world without the dollar at its center. See, the real crisis, it's not about inflation or volatility. It's about the slow motion collapse of the system that made the United States the center of global power. Once America's greatest strength, the dollar is now its greatest risk. Because the collapse of the dollar isn't a sudden single event. It's a process, a global shift that's been decades in the making. But now, as we near the end of this currency life cycle, we all can feel this process accelerating. So what happens when the dollar loses its position of power? How are central banks around the world already preparing for this? And most importantly, how can you use this knowledge to protect yourself before it's too late? Let's get into it. Over the last few weeks, the dollar index, or a measure of the dollar's strength compared to a basket of other major foreign currencies, has dropped significantly, down 9% since the start of the year and almost 4% just since April 2nd. This is the dollar's worst stretch in over 20 years, a clear signal of waning global demand. Not to be confused with a decline in domestic purchasing power, which, don't worry, we'll talk about that. But this is absolutely a flashing red warning sign for the dollar and the United States. Because the dollar isn't just another currency, it's the foundation of the global financial system. So when confidence in the dollar breaks, everything that's been built on top of it starts to fall. And for the last 80 years, the dollar has been the global reserve currency, essentially forcing other countries to settle trade in dollars, hold dollars, and use U.S. Western-led financial systems, whether they liked it or not. But today, that system is breaking as nations are moving fast to escape dollar dominance. BRICS, led by China and Russia, are creating alternate trade options spurred on by tariffs and sanctions, calling for a multipolar world order where the dollar is not at the center. But before I continue, I know someone out there watching is going to say, wait a second, Taylor, these countries, they use dollars, they hold U.S. treasuries. Why would they want the U.S. dollar to fail? That doesn't make any sense. It only hurts themselves, which is partially true today. But if you're another country who feels as though the U.S. has treated you poorly, be it through tariffs, sanctions, or just not having a seat at the table, wouldn't you be motivated to find an alternative? Even if you still are stuck in the system today, you would be doing everything in your power to find a new path forward, which is what these countries are doing. And if you saw that this is the direction the world was headed, you wouldn't want to be the last one holding, right? No, you would be looking for an alternative. Enter gold. Gold is not new, but over the last decade, central banks have bought over 1 billion ounces. We're talking trillions of dollars worth of gold, not because it's a safe haven asset, but because they understand the future monetary system that we're into, one where trust in fiat currency, specifically the dollar, is broken, and a new monetary system will be put in place. This is why gold is suddenly in the news, in the White House, calls to audit Fort Knox, increased demand for delivery, all of these little pieces that are coming together. It's because the spotlight is back on gold as the world understands that there will be a new system, and as part of that, a revaluation, whether officially or unofficially, with gold at the center.
The price of the precious yellow metal on the rise.
It's all-time high.
So are we seeing a modern day gold rush?
But this shift away from dollars and into gold isn't just a theory. We can see it playing out right now in the treasury market over the last 2 weeks, with yields rising, something you never would expect to see during a time of economic uncertainty. But treasuries are no longer considered safe assets, especially during these times of uncertainty. People are flocking to gold. But unfortunately, this is only the beginning, with most predicting that things are going to get a whole lot worse, which is bad news for anyone out there who has savings or dollar-denominated assets, because anytime the government overspends, which I don't have to tell you is quite frequently, the Treasury issues bonds to cover the gap of the overspending. Now, historically, high demand for these bonds is what's kept interest rates on the U.S. debt low. But now, as demand tanks, the U.S. will be forced to offer higher yields to attract new investors, further exacerbating the debt burden. A debt burden which, as we know, is already costing us over $1 trillion annually just for interest on the debt. If remaining confidence continues to be chipped away at, there won't be anything left. The dollar today has 3 cents left of its original value, meaning we've lost 97% of our purchasing power since the Federal Reserve was created. And in the last 5 years, we've lost 25% of what was left. But this isn't slowing down. The damage is only accelerating. In fact, this fiscal year, this year, we have the most debt on record, second only to 2021 during the pandemic at $1.3 trillion. And interest payments that I mentioned earlier are the highest on record. You've heard the story about the frog in the boiling water. Drop a frog into a pot of hot water and it jumps out right away. It knows there's danger. But if you put a frog in a pot of cool water and slowly turn up the heat, well, then the frog won't realize what's happening until it's too late. The American people are the frog, and the heat rising is the collapse of the dollar. Your wealth at risk. Now, you can choose to ignore these warning signs, but do not say you weren't warned. The good news here, though, is that the frog always had a choice. You can.
Okay, any comments? Okay. Play this next video, then we'll talk about both of them.
What if there was a way to know if a stock
markets plummet by over $8 trillion. BlackRock CEO Larry Fink predicts an additional 20% drop in the near future, and many economists agree. This comes after President Donald Trump imposed harsh tariffs on American imports, triggering chaos in global markets and sparking widespread panic. The Caribbean countries, with a combined population of nearly 44 million, are feeling the brunt of these changes, facing a baseline 10% tariff duty, with Guyana hit especially hard at 38%. For these small economies reliant on exports to the US, the sudden rise in import duties threatens their survival. CARICOM has made a strong stand, urging the US to reconsider the impact of its policies. But will this crisis push the Caribbean to pivot away from America and seek new trade alliances? Let's take a closer look at the responses from Caribbean leaders and the alarming realities they face. The Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda has called the latest tariffs, quote, the largest threat to the Caribbean region. At the same time, the Jamaican Prime Minister has called the situation, quote, a grave concern, while Mia Mottley, the Prime Minister of Barbados and Chairman of CARICOM, has become the latest leader to emphasize the severity of the crisis. Opening her speech with the words, quote, our world is in crisis. I will not sugarcoat it. Then she went on to offer some hard facts to her fellow Caribbeans. Quote, this trade war and the possibility of a US $1 million to $1.5 million levy on all Chinese-made ships entering US harbors will mean higher prices for all of us at the corner shop, higher prices at the supermarket, higher prices at the electronics store, higher prices for us at the shop, higher prices for us at the restaurant, higher prices for us at the current dealership and beyond.
Our world is in crisis. I will not sugarcoat it. Our Caribbean economies are largely reliant on imports. Just go to the supermarket or visit the mall or the hardware shop or the electronics store, and you will see that most of the things there are not produced in this region. Many of those commodities are either purchased directly from the United States of America or pass through the United States of America on their way to the Caribbean region. That, my friends, is a legacy of our colonial dependence. But I want every Caribbean man and every Caribbean woman to hear me. This trade war and the possibility of a $1 million to $1.5 million levy on all Chinese-made ships entering US harbors will mean higher prices for all of us at the corner shop, higher prices at the supermarket, higher prices at the electronics store, higher prices for us at the shop, higher prices for us at the restaurant, higher prices for us at the car dealership and beyond.
For many years, the Caribbean region depended on its exports to American markets. The reason was simple. The market was readily accessible. The consumers were plentiful, and diplomatic relations were good. However, none of those may be the case anymore. American markets are no longer accessible. Increased import duties will reduce consumption, and Trump's policies will surely cause diplomatic rifts. Small Caribbean economies previously relied on measures like CBI and CBERA to export their products to the US with near zero duties. For a long time, this allowed agricultural industries from countries like Jamaica, St. Vincent, Barbados, and the Dominican Republic to prosper. Similarly, Guyana's gold, Jamaica's bauxite, Haitian clothing, and other exports also had a clear route. American consumers will now pay at least a 10% higher rate for those same products. The raised prices will affect these businesses, permanently hemorrhaging a few of them. To deal with this potential loss, the Caribbean markets are now looking for a solution to this problem, and experts believe that the Caribbean might pivot toward new markets, subjecting them to tax.
After my wreck, the walls were closing in.
Prices. So, is this the end of free trade? The principle of free trade has served the global economy for several decades. It began with GATT, or the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, after the Second World War, and focused on reducing tariffs, quotas, and other barriers to international trade. The process worked under a simple idea: demand and supply. If a country is good at making automobiles, its cars will have a higher demand in the international market. Now, American tariffs are compromising this spirit of fair competition. The country's need to be self-reliant affects supply chains built across multiple years. As the Caribbean faces these economic challenges head-on, the region is at a pivotal crossroads. While the road ahead may seem uncertain, the push for new markets and stronger international ties offers a beacon of hope. With CARICOM's clear four-point manifesto guiding the way, the Caribbean is poised for unity, strategic growth, and adaptation.
Okay, any comments on that? Yeah, so like I was saying, that first video was talking about how the dollar is going away, gold is coming, and then this video here was talking about the Caribbean and which are, those are Israelites, and how that they looking for new markets, new place to trade with, And if you go to Isaiah chapter 60, it was prophesied that that would be a sign in the end that he's going to convert the forces of the Gentiles back to us. So, like in this next video, you can see that Trump is being used by the Lord of Hosts to bring about the most out of these end times. A lot of the things he's doing, he's speeding up what the Lord of Hosts already prophesied. Okay, let me play that.
For small businesses,
Going on, everybody? This is Afro Think Tank, and I just want to say that Donald Trump is the best thing to ever happen to Africa and African people. I'm gonna tell you right now, Donald Trump is the best thing to ever happen to Africans and the continent of Africa. And I actually said that the first time Donald Trump was elected, because of Donald Trump's, because he doesn't know anything about Africa, right? He didn't even know what the Congo was. All right, Donald Trump is elof when it comes to anything outside of his bubble, right? And since he's such a white supremacist, right? But he's not only just a white supremacist, he's a white supremacist who's a spoon-fed rich oligarch who also is a classist, right? He's also deems himself supreme over all other people that is not Donald Trump. So he's all the isms, right? It's just racism is one of them. And because of that, he doesn't see any value in Africa. Now, yeah, that can be taken offensively, right? But technically and tactically, it's a great thing. When he was the president the first time, right, he had no plans for Africa. First of all, Donald Trump he doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't read, he doesn't know anything about politics. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's just there for the cameras, right? So the first time he became the president, what that did was, since he didn't care about Africa, he defunded a lot of things, a lot of hard work that the well-oiled white supremacist machine institution of America, the hard work that competent, smart, intelligent white supremacists put in all those years, he put in to establish their spy networks and their agencies and their leverage over African politicians and businessmen. You're talking about decades of purposely denying African countries and heads of state the ability to grow, right? Because not only, just like white people don't mind black people's business here in America, they always minding our business, even when we're minding our own, like when we're by ourselves doing our own thing. How white people always mind our business and then have something to say about our business. White people also mind Africa and African people's business, no matter what they're doing, right? Everything that white people, the government, the white supremacist government has done to African Americans locally, they have done on an international scale, on a global scale, to Africans on the continent. Every single thing. And the playbook is exactly the same. Because, like I said, despite some of you new age Negroes that don't know who you are, white people see all black people as the same. No matter if they speak in French, Spanish, English, no matter if they're born in Africa, born in America, born in the UK, all brown, black people are Africans to them. We are all the same threat level to them. They view and treat us all the same. At least North Americans anyway. The Europeans a little different, right? So despite what you want to fight and believe, because there's a lot of emotionally immature African Americans, a lot of immature, emotionally continental Africans, Caribbeans, and Latinos, right? Despite your immaturity, right, the rest of the world knows who the hell you are, even if you don't know who the hell you are, or in denial because you know who the hell you are. That's the thing about it, right? So Africa, right, having been the center of everybody's paying attention to Africa because everybody knows that's the future. Any smart business person knows when it comes to supply and demand, when it comes to resources, when it comes to numbers and people, and the future of manufacturing, the future of financing, everybody know Africa is the future. Giving favors and doing things and stuff like that. We had the money to do it, right? But because rich white people, right, at the very top, who are also racist and sexist and ageist and generationalist and every type of ismist that they can possibly be, right? If you're not rich and white, you mean nothing to them, right? Because of them making their barbaric, savage, middle-aged moves. I say middle-aged, they act like we're living in the Middle Ages, right? And that's how they treat us. Because of the moves that they're making, everybody's going to recede out, right? So Africa, right? Africa is creating new business partners with other countries, especially Southeast Asian countries. There are a lot of Asian countries that wish that they could do business in Africa, but America freaking monopolized the market. But now America's backing out. Shit, there's a lot of Asian people who are going to take their opportunity, right? There's a lot of other African countries, right, who would love to do business with other African countries. And guess what? Now they have the opportunity because they don't have to compete with Big Bad America because Big Bad America said F everybody, right? Like, for instance, the two giants of Africa, Nigeria and South Africa, just eliminated visa requirements. That's a massive deal. And of course, they're not going to talk about it on the news. They don't want to enlighten all the diaspora Africans that the two of the biggest goddamn African economies just merged, basically. Visa. Ain't no point in Nigerians and goddamn South Africans fighting now. Ain't no point because once they took that visa away, those economies will be able to do business together much easier. They'll be able to travel back and forth easier. South Africans and Nigerians will be able to marry each other easier. They'll be able to connect easier. Everything's going to be easier. That means me being in Nigeria, I'll be able to do business in South Africa easier. I'll be able to import easier. African countries are without the help of Europeans, without Europeans holding their hand, they are making international business deals on a continent that's going to be conducive for economic prosperity for both countries. Slowly.
Okay. Like I said, the forces of the Gentiles is being converted back to Yahweh's people. Any comments, questions? Okay, we'll open it up for some Q&A. Anybody have any questions, comments, or dialogue, anything they want to talk about from previous classes or something you came across you want to talk about?
Shalom, everyone. No, sir, not at this time.
Anybody else? Okay, let me play this, then I start go to Jasher.
In an instant, they rot from within. Slowly at first, decay hidden beneath the surface, until one day the foundation gives way. The United States has spent decades building an economic system that, for better or worse, became the backbone of global trade, finance, and stability. The dollar became the world's currency. American markets set the tempo for the rest of the world. Its economic alliances, its debts, even its reckless spending, none of it seemed to matter, because the system worked. Until now. What happens when that system breaks? When the country that built globalization decides to tear it apart? Donald Trump is not the first president to challenge the world order, but he may be the last to oversee its unmaking. His policies, tariffs, trade wars,
fiscal recklessness aren't just momentary disruptions. They are the accelerants to a fire that has been smoldering for years. And in a worst-case scenario, this fire doesn't just burn down the American economy, it takes the entire global system with it. But here's the thing about collapse. It's not always obvious when it begins. Sometimes it starts with something as simple as a broken alliance, a tariff, a bond sell-off, a quiet moment in history that, in hindsight, will look like the turning point. And we may already be there. Welcome to Economic Circuit, where we break down the forces driving our global economy. From the history of major companies to today's shifting trends, we're here to make complex topics clear and relevant. Chapter 1. The end of globalization. Globalization was never just about trade, it was about power. For decades, the United States sat at the center of a vast economic web, dictating the rules of global commerce. Trade agreements ensured American access to foreign markets. The dollar became the foundation of international finance. The world's largest economies depended on stable relations with Washington to keep the system running. That system is now coming apart. Donald Trump's return to power has accelerated a shift that was already underway, the unraveling of American-led globalization. His administration isn't just reviving past trade wars, it's escalating them. One of Trump's first major moves was reinstating and expanding tariffs, targeting China, the European Union, and even traditional allies like Japan and South Korea. The logic? Protect American industry. The reality? A global economic realignment that pushes the US further into isolation. China has doubled down on alternative trade routes. Instead of negotiating with Washington, Beijing is strengthening its Belt and Road Initiative, solidifying economic ties with Africa, Latin America, and Europe without US involvement. The EU is shifting away from American leadership. European policymakers, wary of Trump's unpredictability, are finalizing trade agreements with Asia and Latin America to secure supply chains that bypass US influence. BRICS nations are accelerating de-dollarization. Russia, India, Brazil, and Saudi Arabia are moving toward regional currencies, making the dollar less necessary for global transactions. In short, global markets are adapting, and America is losing leverage. Trump's policies operate on the assumption that America's market is irreplaceable, that foreign nations will always return to the negotiating table, that they need the US more than the US needs them. But what if that's no longer true? American exporters are already feeling the impact. Retaliatory tariffs from China and the EU have slashed demand for US goods. Supply chains are shifting permanently. After years of trade tensions, companies are restructuring operations to avoid reliance on American suppliers. The dollar's dominance is eroding. Central banks in major economies are stockpiling reserves in alternative currencies to avoid dependence on US monetary policy. Trump's first term showed the world that America's commitment to globalization could be reversed overnight. His second term is proving that the reversal is permanent. For decades, American economic supremacy was built on one assumption, that no major economy could function without the US at the table. That assumption is now collapsing. With every new tariff, every broken trade deal, every diplomatic rift, the US is making itself less central to global commerce. The question is no longer whether globalization is ending, but whether America will still have a seat in whatever comes next. And as the world moves forward, Washington may find itself watching from the sidelines. If you don't want to be on the sidelines too, subscribe to Economic Circuit. We break down the forces reshaping the Rome debased currency to finance endless wars. The British Empire accumulated unsustainable debt before its global influence collapsed. The Soviet Union spent itself into ruin, trying to outpace the US military. And now, America is following the same trajectory. If Washington doesn't change course, if Trump continues spending without limits, borrowing without restraint, then the US is heading for the same fate. Because debt crises don't happen gradually, they happen suddenly. One day, everything seems fine. The next, investors panic. Interest rates spike. The government scrambles to reassure markets. And then, before anyone fully realizes what's happening, the entire system starts to break. The US isn't immune to economic collapse. No empire ever is. The only question left is, how much time is left before the reckoning? Chapter 4, the death of the dollar, the collapse no one thought possible. For nearly a century, the US dollar has been the backbone of the global economy. Every major nation holds it in reserves. Oil, commodities, and global trade are settled in it. The dollar isn't just America's currency, it's the world's. But under Trump's second administration, that dominance is slipping faster than ever. Even before Trump's return, the world had been slowly diversifying away from the dollar. But his policies, escalating trade wars, aggressive tariffs, economic nationalism, are accelerating the process. China and Russia have already cut their reliance on the dollar. Trade between the two nations is now settled in yuan and rubles. BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, are actively working on an alternative reserve currency. Saudi Arabia, once a cornerstone of the petrodollar system, is now accepting oil payments in yuan. These shifts aren't happening in secret. They are public, deliberate, and growing. The strength of the US dollar is based on one thing: trust. The world trusts that America will pay its debts, keep inflation under control, and remain a stable economic leader. But Trump's policies are undermining that trust. Massive deficit spending is raising fears about the US government's ability to manage its finances. Tariff.
Okay. Any comments? Okay. Like I said, I'll be reading out of Joshua chapter 88 and 89. And I'm bouncing off of the fact that we know from the New Testament it says that one of these lies that came over with JC was that it was prophesied in the book of Deuteronomy, if I'm not mistaken, but that he was going to raise up a prophet likened unto Moses, and they saying that they're telling us that that prophet was Jesus, right? And then we went on a couple of classes. We went to where we saw that the Most High, that Moses laid hands on Joshua, and we know that Moses went up into the mountain because the Most High was Moses that served his purpose. So he took Moses up on Mount Nebo, and he took Moses, right? And Joshua was a prophet that was prophesied was going to be likened unto Moses. So it says that in the book of Numbers that Moses laid hands on Joshua. And we know that the other day we read where when Moses went up on Mount Sinai, Joshua went up there with him. He had the 70 elders with him, and they got to a certain point up the mountain. He told the 70 elders to wait there. Him and Joshua kept going. So we come to find out, in all those incidences, Joshua was always there. So Joshua was that prophet that was prophesied was going to be likened unto Moses, not JC. And so I'm reading out of Genesis chapter 88 and 89 because it shines more light on the fact that who the prophet was. So I'm going to start reading out of Joshua chapter 88 and 89. It says, and it was after the death of Moses, right? It was after the death of Moses that the Lord said to Joshua the son of Nun, saying, rise up, pass through Jordan to the land which I have given to the children of Israel, and thou shalt make the children of Israel inherit the land. Every place upon which the sole of your feet shall tread shall belong to you. From the wilderness of Lebanon unto the great river, the river Pirat, shall be your boundaries. No man shall stand up against thee all the days of thy life. As I was with Moses, so will I be with thee. Only be strong and of good courage to observe all the law which Moses commanded thee. Turn not from the right, either to turn not from the way either to the right or to the left, in order that thou mayest prosper in all that thou doest. So I'll read that verse again because it trumps the lie they told in the New Testament. Verse 4 says, no man shall stand up against thee. It's the Lord of hosts talking to Joshua. No man shall stand up against thee all the days of thy life. As I was with Moses, so will I be with thee. Only be strong and of good courage to observe all the law which Moses commanded thee. So this the prophet right here, likening to Moses. Turn not from the way either to the right hand or to the left, in order that thou mayest prosper in all that thou doest. And Joshua commanded the officers of Israel, saying, pass through the camp and command the people, saying, prosper for your, saying, prepare for yourselves provisions, for in 3 days more you shall pass the Jordan and possess the land. Right. So this is right here. Verse 5 is it's like a megaphone in my ear because we at the same point right here. It says Joshua commanded the officers of Israel, saying, pass through the camp, command the people, saying, prepare yourselves provisions, for in 3 days more you will pass the Jordan to possess the land. So we at the same point. Time for us to go. And we see all the signs. So you should be preparing yourself, mind and body. Okay? It says, and the officers of the children of Israel did so, and they commanded the people, and they did all that Joshua had commanded them. Joshua sent 2 men to spy out the land of Jericho, and the men went and spied it out. And at the end of 7 days, they came to Joshua in the camp and said to him, the Lord has delivered the whole land into our hands, and the inhabitants thereof are meeting with fear because of us. And it came to pass after that Joshua rose up in the morning, and all Israel with him, and they journeyed from Shechem, and Joshua and all Israel with him passed the Jordan. And Joshua was 82 years old when he passed the Jordan with Israel. And the people went up from Jordan on the 10th day of the first month, and they encamped in Gilgal at the eastern corner of Jericho. And the children of Israel kept the Passover in Gilgal in the plains of Jericho on the 14th day, at the 14th day at the month, as it is written in the law of Moses. And the manna ceased at that time on the morrow of the Passover, and there was no more manna for the children of Israel, and they ate of the produce of the land of Canaan. And Jericho was entirely closed against the children of Israel, and no one came out or went in. And it was in the 2nd month, first day of the month, okay, that the Lord said to Joshua, rise up, behold, I have given Jericho into thy hands, with all the people thereof, and all your fighting men shall go round about the city once each day. Thus shall you do for 6 days. And the priest shall blow upon the trumpets, and when he shall hear the sound of the trumpets, all the people shall give a shouting, and the walls of the city shall fall down, and all the people shall go up every man against his opponent. Joshua did so according to all the Lord had commanded him. And on the 7th day, they went around the city 7 times, and the priests blew trumpets. And at the seventh round, Joshua said to the people, "Shout, for the Lord has delivered the whole city into our hands. Only the city and all it contains shall be accursed to the Lord. And keep yourselves from the accursed thing, lest you make the camp of Israel, lest you make the camp of Israel cursed and trouble it. But all the silver and gold and brass, iron shall be consecrated to the Lord. They shall come in the treasury of the Lord." So, like I said, look at what's happening right now. We were just looking at a video where the gold had made a comeback, the dollar falling, right? So, like I said, that's a sign to me. It says, "But all the silver and the gold and the brass and the iron, those are the things that the Creator made, right? Shall be consecrated to the Lord. They shall come into the treasury of the Lord." And the people blew upon the trumpets and made a great shouting, and the walls of Jericho fell down, and the people went up, every man straight before him, and they took the city and utterly destroyed all that was in it, both man and woman, young and old, ox and sheep and ass with the edge of the sword. So right here, like I was saying before, I mean, it kind of like goes over people's head, but how can these people be? How can they be in the kin? How can they be in the kin to the Israelites? And the Creator just told you, he told them to kill all of them. He says, "And the people blew upon the trumpets, made a great shouting, and the walls of Jericho fell down, and all the people went up, every man straight before him, and they took the city and utterly destroyed." See that? All that was in it, both man, women, young, old, ox, sheep, ass, with the edge of the sword. So how can they be kin to them? Everybody came from Shem, Ham, and Japheth. But the Lord hosts got them killing these people. So how can they be some kin? There ain't no kin. 23. And Joshua swore at that time, saying, "Cursed be the man who builds Jericho. He shall lay the foundation thereof, and his firstborn, and his youngest son shall he set up the gates thereof." And Achan, the son of Kumar, the son of Zebah, the son of Zerah of Judah, dealt treacherously in the accursed thing, and he took the accursed thing, hid it in his tent, and the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel. Okay. And it was after this, when the children of Israel had returned from burning Jericho, Joshua sent men to spy out Ai and to fight against it. And the men went up, spied out Ai, and they returned and said, let not all the people go up with thee to Ai, only let about 3,000 men go up and smite the city, for the men thereof are but few. And Joshua did so. There went up with him from the children of Israel about 3,000 men, and they fought against the men of Ai, and the battle was severe against Israel. And the men of Ai smote 36 men of Israel, and the children of Israel fled from before the men of Ai. And when Joshua saw this thing, he tore his garment and fell upon his face to the ground before the Lord, he with the elders of Israel, and they put dust upon their heads. And Joshua said, "Why, O Lord, didst thou bring this people over the Jordan? What shall I say after the Israelites have turned their backs against their enemies? Now, therefore, all the Canaanites, the inhabitants of the land, will hear this thing and surround us, cut off our name." And the Lord said to Joshua, "Why doest thou fall upon thy face? Rise, get thee off, from the Israelites have sinned and taken their accursed thing, and I will no more be with them unless they destroy the accursed thing from amongst them." Okay, hold up. Okay, and Joshua rose up and assembled the people and brought the Urim by the order of the Lord, and the tribes of Judah was taken, and Achan the son of Kamala was taken. And Joshua said to Achan, "Tell me, my son, What hast thou done? And Achan said, I saw among the spoils a goodly garment of Shinar, 200 shekels of silver, and a wedge of gold of 50 shekels weight. And I coveted them and took them, and behold, they are hid in the earth in the midst of my tent. And Joshua sent men who went and took them from the tent of Achan, and they brought them to Joshua. And Joshua took Achan and those utensils and his sons and his daughters and all belonging to him, and they brought them into the valley of Achor. And Joshua burned them there with fire, and all the Israelites stoned Achan with stones, and they raised over him a heap of stones. Therefore did he call that place the valley of Achor. So the Lord's anger was appeased. And Joshua afterwards came to the city and fought against it. And the Lord said to Joshua, fear not, neither be dismayed. Behold, I have given it into thy hands Ai, her king, her people, and thou shalt do unto them as thou didst to Jericho and her king. Only the spoil thereof and the cattle thereof shall you take for a prey for yourselves. Lay an ambush for the city behind it. So Joshua did according to the word of the Lord, and he chose from among the sons of war 30,000 valiant men, and he sent them, and they laid ambush for the city. And he commanded them, saying, when ye shall see us, we will flee before them with cunning, and they will pursue us. And you shall then arise out of the ambush and take the city. And they did so. And Joshua fought, and the men of the city went out toward Israel, not knowing that they were lying in ambush for them behind the city. And Joshua and all the Israelites feigned themselves wearied out before them, and they fled by the way of the wilderness, cunning. And the men of Ai gathered all the people who were in the city to pursue the Israelites, and they went out and were drawn away from the city. Not one remained, and they left the city open and pursued the Israelites. And those who were lying in ambush rose up out of their places, hastened and came to the city and took it and set it on fire. And the men of Ai turned back, and behold, the smoke of the city ascended to the skies, and they had no means of retreating either one way or the other. And all the men of Ai were in the midst of Israel, some on this side and some on that side, and they smote them, so that not one of them remained. And the children of Israel took Melech, king of Ai, alive, and they brought him to Joshua, and Joshua hanged him on a tree, and he died. And the children of Israel returned to the city after having burned it, and they smote all those that were that were in it with the edge of a sword. And the number of those that had fallen of the men of Ai, both man and woman, were 12,000. Only the cattle and the spoils of the city they took to themselves, according to the word of the Lord to Joshua. And all the kings on this side, all the kings of Canaan, heard the evil which the children of Israel had done to Jericho and to Ai, and they gathered themselves together to fight against Israel. Only the inhabitants of Gibeon were greatly afraid of fighting against the Israelites, lest they should perish. So they acted cunningly, and they came to Joshua and all Israel and said unto them, we have come from a distance, man. Now therefore make a covenant with us. And the inhabitants of Gibeon overreached the children of Israel, and the children of Israel made a covenant with them, and they made peace with them. And the princes of the congregation swore unto them, but afterward the children of Israel knew that they were neighbors to them and were dwelling amongst them. But the children of Israel slew them not, for they had sworn to them by the Lord, and they became hewers of wood and drawers of water. And Joshua said unto them, why did you deceive me to do this thing to us? And they answered him, saying, because it was told to thy servants, all that ye have done to all the kings of the Amorites, and we were greatly afraid for our lives, and we did this thing. And Joshua appointed them on that day to hew wood and to draw water, and he divided them for slaves to all the tribes of Israel. So right here, these are people right here that later on, David, during the time of David, they showed them how they was like when the Israelites had to burn meat on the grill and all this stuff. These people were the ones going and getting the wood and all that. They were slaves for the Levites in the temple. Okay. Later on, these are some of the people that was Sadducees and Pharisees, because they sit there and watch those Israelites how they operate. So then when Israel was taken out of the land and went to Babylon for 7 years, they wanted the land, because they wanted to be like the Israelites. They had sit there and watch them for years, being slaves, being servants to the Israelites. Now they wanted to take it, they took it over when the Israelites left and went into captivity. So anyway, 55, and when Adoniah, king of Jerusalem, heard all that the children of Israel had done to Jericho and Ai, he sent to Homer, king of Hebron, and to Perlim, king of Jerma, and Japha, king of Language, and Dea, king of Elam, saying, come up to me and help me, that we may smite the children of Israel and the inhabitants of Gibeon, who have made peace with the children of Israel. And they gathered themselves together, and the 5 kings of the Amorites went up with all their camps, a mighty people, numerous as the sands of the seashore. And all these kings came and encamped before Gibeon, and they began to fight against the inhabitants of Gibeon. And all the men of Gibeon sent to Joshua, saying, come up quickly to us and help us, for all the kings of the Amorites have gathered together to fight against us. And so remember what the Lord told Abraham, right, in Genesis chapter 15, that they was gonna go, his children would go into captivity in Egypt, and when they come out, he's gonna deal with the Amorites. This is right here, 58. All these kings came and encamped before Gibeon, and they began to fight against this 58 of 88 of Joshua against the inhabitants of Gibeon. All the men of Gibeon went to Joshua, saying, come up quickly to us and help us. All the kings of the Amorites, this prophecy, this how the Lord of hosts got rid of them. He told Abraham he was going to deal with them. Like the time wasn't yet when he was talking to Abraham. He said, but when they come they're going to go to a land and serve those people. They're going to afflict them. Then I'm going to bring them out, and then they're going to deal with the Amorites. And here it is right here. For all the kings of the Amorites have gathered together to fight against us. And Joshua and all the fighting people went up from Gilead, and Joshua came suddenly to them and smote. Look at this. Joshua smote these 5 kings with a great slaughter. Okay? And the Lord confounded them before the children. See that? The Lord confounded them before the children of Israel, who smote them with a terrible slaughter in Gibeon, and pursued them along the way that it goes up to Beth Heron unto Makkedah, and they fled from before the children of Israel. And while they were fleeing, the Lord sent upon them hailstone from heaven, and more of them died by hailstone than by the slaughter of the children of Israel. And the children of Israel pursued them as they were as they smote them in the road, going on and smiting them. And when they were smiting the day, okay, this the whole reason why the Most High held the sun, because this the prophecy that he had told Abraham. I'm gonna get rid of them. So it says, and when they were smiting them, the day was declining toward evening. Joshua said in the sight of all the people, sun, stand still upon Gibeon, and thou moon in the valley of Ajalon, until the nation shall have revenged itself upon its enemies. And the Lord hearkened to the voice of Joshua, and the sun stood still in the midst of the heavens, and it stood still 6 and 30 minutes. And the moon also stood still and hastened not to go down a whole day. And there was no day like that day before it or after it. The Lord hearkened to the voice of a man, for the Lord fought for Israel. So all this happening because of what he had told Abraham. Not no 400 years in America. Somebody's gonna go to Egypt. Okay, that was chapter 88 of Joshua. Anybody got any comments, questions? Okay, I'm in 89. I'm gonna read 89, then we'll pick a scripture. Okay. Then spoke Joshua this song. Then spoke Joshua this song on the day that the Lord had given the Amorites into the hands of Joshua and the children of Israel. And he did, and he said in the sight of all Israel, right? So, like I said, I'm showing you how the prophet that they tell us in the New Testament that Most High was going to raise up with JC. So we can see right here, it was Joshua. So I'm going to read verse 1 again because to put emphasis on the fact that what he told Abraham. Then spoke Joshua this song on the day that the Lord had given the Amorites, right? Genesis 15, giving the Amorites into the hands of Joshua and the children of Israel. And he said in the sight of all Israel, thou hast done mighty things, O Lord. Thou hast performed great deeds. Who is likened unto thee? My lips shall sing to thy name. My goodness and my fortress, my high tower. I will sing a new song unto thee. With thanksgiving will I sing to thee. Thou art the strength of my salvation. So this is Savior right here. Lord of hosts says, and the kings of the earth shall praise thee. The princes of the world shall sing to thee. The children of Israel shall rejoice in thy salvation. They shall sing and praise thy power. To thee, O Lord, did we confide. We said, thou art our God, for thou wast our shelter and a strong tower against our enemies. To thee we cried and were not ashamed. So, like I said, now we ain't crying to him. We crying to JC. That's why we catch so much hell. He says, to thee we cried and we were not ashamed. In thee we trusted and were delivered. When we cried unto thee, thou didst hear our voice. Thou didst deliver our souls from the sword. Thou didst show us thy grace. Thou didst give us thy salvation. Thou didst rejoice our hearts, uh, with thy strength. So look right here. You always got these Negroes hollering about grace. Paul, grace, Paul, this, Paul, grace, right? So this is a different grace. Paul, grace, this the great grace of the Lord of hosts right here. It says, 6, thou, to thee we cried and were not ashamed. In thee we trusted and were delivered. When we cried unto thee, thou didst hear our voice. Thou didst deliver our souls from the sword. Thou didst show us thy grace. So JC grace and y'all and Lord of Hosts grace, two different graces. You got to get the right grace, right? Thou didst give us thy salvation. So JC salvation and Lord of Hosts salvation, two different salvations. Got to get the right one, right? Thou didst rejoice our hearts with thy strength. Thou didst go forth for our salvation. With thine arm, thou didst redeem thy people. Thou didst answer us from the heavens by thy holiness. Thou didst save us from 10,000 people. The sun and the moon stood still in heaven, and thou didst stand in thy wrath against our oppressors, and didst command thy judgment over them. All the princes of the earth stood up, the kings of the nations had gathered themselves together. They were not moved at thy presence. They desired thy battles. Thou didst rise against them in thine anger, and didst bring down thy wrath upon them. Thou didst destroy them in thine anger, and cut them off in thy heart. Okay? Nations have been consumed with thy fury. Kingdoms have declined because of thy wrath. Thou didst wound kings in the day of thy anger. 11. Nations have been nations have been consumed by thy fury. Kingdoms have declined. That's what we're looking at now. Kingdoms have declined because of thy wrath. Thou didst wound kings in the day of thine anger. Thou didst pour out thy fury upon them. Thy wrathful anger took hold of them. Thou didst turn their iniquity upon them, and did cut them off in their wickedness. They did spread a trap, they fell therein. In the net they hid, their foot was caught. Okay? You're looking at that right now. Thine hand was ready for all thine enemies who said, through their sword they possessed the land. Through their arm they dwelt in the cities. Thou didst fill their faces with shame. Thou didst bring their horns down to the ground, and thou didst terrify them in thy wrath, and didst destroy them in thy anger. The earth trembled and shook at the sound of the storm over them. Thou didst not withhold their souls from death, and didst bring down their lives to the grave. They did pursue them in thy storm. Thou didst consume them in the whirlwind. Thou didst turn their rain into hail. They fell in deep pits, so that they could not rise. Their carcasses were like rubbish cast out into the middle of the streets. They were consumed and destroyed in thine anger. Thou didst save thy people with thy might. Therefore our hearts rejoice in thee. Our souls exalt in thy salvation. Our tongue shall relate thy might. We will sing and praise thy wondrous works. For thou didst save us from our enemies. Thou didst deliver us from those who rose up against us. Thou didst destroy them from before us, and depress them beneath our feet. Thus shall all thine enemies perish, O Lord, and the wicked shall be like chaff driven by the wind, and thy beloved shall be like trees planted by the water. So Joshua and all Israel with him returned to the camp of Gilgal after having smitten all the kings, so that not a remnant was left of them. And the 5 kings fled along on foot from battle and hid themselves in the cave. Joshua sought for them in the field of battle and did not find them. And he was afterwards told Joshua, saying, the kings are found, and behold, they are hidden in a cave. And Joshua said, appoint men to be at the mouth of the cave to guard them, lest they take themselves away. And the children of Israel did so. Joshua called to all Israel and said to the officers of battle, place your feet upon the necks of these kings. And Joshua said, so shall the Lord do to all your enemies. And Joshua commanded afterwards that they should slay the kings, cast them into the cave, and to put great stones at the mouth of the cave. And Joshua went afterwards with all the people that were with him on that day to Makkedah, and he smote it with the edge of the sword, and he utterly destroyed the souls and all belonging to the city. And he did to the kings and the people thereof as he had done to Jericho. And he passed from there to Libnah, and he fought against it. And the Lord delivered it into his hands, and Joshua smote it with the edge of a sword, and all the souls thereof. And he did it, and he did it, and to the king thereof as he had done in Jericho. And from there he passed on to Lachish to fight against it. And Horam, king of Gaza, went up to assist the men of Lachish. Joshua smote him and his people until there was none left to him. And Joshua took Lachish and all the people thereof, and he did so as he had done to to Libnah, and Joshua passed from there to Eglon, and he took that also, and he smote it, and all the people there with the edge of the sword. And from there he passed to Hebron, fought against it, took it, and others destroyed it. And he returned from there with all Israel to Deborah, and fought against it, and smote it with the edge of the sword. Okay? Okay? And he destroyed every soul in it, and he left none remaining. And he did to it and the king thereof as he had done to Jericho. Joshua smote all the kings of the Amorites. See that? Joshua smote all the kings of the Amorites from Kadesh Barnea to Azza, and he took their countries at once, for the Lord had fought for Israel. So Joshua fulfilling Genesis chapter 15. And Joshua smote all the kings of the Amorites from Kadesh, I read that, 38. Joshua with all Israel came to the camp of Gilgal, and when at that time Jabin, king of Khazar, heard all that Joshua had done to the kings of the Amorites, Jabin sent to Jabin, king of Midian, and to the Laban, king of Shinar, and Jaffa, king of Ashtaroth, and all the kings of the Amorites, saying, "Come quickly to us, help us, that we may smite the children of Israel before they come upon us, and do unto us as they have done to the other kings of the Amorites." And all the kings hearkened to the words of Jabin, king of Chathar, and they went forth with all their camps, 17 kings, and their people were as numerous as the sands of the seashore, together with the horses, the chariots, innumerable. And they came and pitched together at the waters of Mimro, and they were met together to fight against Israel. And here you go, right here. And the Lord said to Joshua, "Fear them not, for tomorrow about this time I will deliver them up, all slain before you, and thou shalt hew their horses and burn their chariots with fire." And Joshua with all the men of war came suddenly upon them and smote them, and they fell into their hands, and the Lord had delivered them into the hands of the children of Israel. So the children of Israel pursued all these kings with their camps and smote them until there was none left of them. And Joshua did to them as the Lord had spoken to him. And Joshua returned at that time to Chazar and smote it with the sword and destroyed every soul in it, burned it with fire. And from Chazar, Joshua passed to Shimron and smote it, utterly destroyed it. And from there he passed to Akshara, and he did to it as he had done to Shimron. And from there he passed to Adullam, and he smote all the people in it. And he did to Adullam as he had done unto Ashtaroth and Shimron. And he passed from them to all the cities of the kings which he had smitten. And he smote all the people that were left of them, and he utterly destroyed them. Only their booty and the cattle the Israelites took to themselves as a prey. But every human being they smote. They suffered not, their souls lived. And the Lord had commanded Moses, as the Lord had commanded Moses, so did Joshua and all Israel. They failed not in anything. So Joshua and all the children of Israel smote the whole land of Canaan as the Lord had commanded them, and smote all the kings, being 31 kings. And the children of Israel took their whole country, besides the kingdom of Sion and all which are on the other side of Jordan, over which Moses had smitten many cities. And Moses gave them to the Reubenites and to the Gadites and the half tribe of Manasseh. Joshua smote all the kings that were on this side of Jordan to the west, and gave them for the inheritance to the 9 tribes and to the half tribe of Israel. For 5 years did Joshua carry on the war with these kings, and he gave their cities to the Israelites, and the land became tranquil for the battle throughout all the cities of the Amorites and the Canaanites. Okay, any comments or questions? Everybody good? Okay, anybody got a scripture they want to read? Okay, so with that being said, I'm gonna say shalom, shalom, and another shalom. I see everybody tomorrow for our reading through the Tanakh, 7 o'clock Central Time. Shalom, shalom, and another shalom.
Shalom, everyone.
I highly recommend that you get this book and you read it because it's a must that you understand who the God head is in the order that's in the Old Testament in Tanakh, because it's not the same as in the New Testament. And when you read this and you get an understanding, then the scriptures open up and then you begin to understand. So I highly recommend that you get this book. It's the Elohim of Israel, and it's a breakdown on the word Elohim and who the God of Israel is and the Godhead.